Skull Nation, brace yourselves. 3 massive developments just rocked the Vikings kingdom. Skull Nation, purple and gold hearts are about to explode, because what I'm about to tell you will have every single member of our beloved Vikings family either jumping for joy or holding their breath in absolute suspense. The front office has been busy, and I mean busy, making moves that could completely reshape our championship dreams. Are you ready for this emotional roller coaster? Because 3 separate bombshells just dropped that will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about our 2025 season. We're talking about a potential reunion that nobody saw coming, a defensive masterstroke that could guarantee our young quarterback's path to the playoffs, and a receiving corps addition that might just give us the most dangerous tight end trio in the entire NFL. Hit that like button right now if you're ready to dive into this Vikings madness, and don't you dare scroll past without subscribing, because you're going to want to be the first to know every single update about our Purple Warriors. The first revelation involves a former teammate of our star tight end who just became available. And let me tell you, Skull Nation, this connection runs deeper than Lake Minnetonka. The chemistry is already there, the talent is undeniable, and the price might be absolutely perfect for what Kevin O'Connell has in mind for our offensive explosion. But that's just the beginning of this wild ride. Noah Fant. Yes, you heard that right, Skull Nation. The Seattle Seahawks just released a former first-round draft pick, and suddenly the Vikings have a golden opportunity to create the most lethal 3 tight end package the NFL has ever witnessed. Remember when Coach Kevin O'Connell used to call Johnny Munt the best 3rd tight end in the National Football League? Well, imagine what he'd say about having Noah Fant fill in that role. This isn't just about replacing Mund after he followed Grant Udinsky to Jacksonville. This is about upgrading in ways that could make opposing defenses have nightmares. The connection between Fant and TJ Hawkinson goes back to their Iowa Hawkeyes days, where scouts couldn't decide who was the better prospect. Hawkinson was the well-rounded weapon, while Fant was the explosive vertical threat that made defensive coordinators lose sleep. Now picture them both in purple and gold, creating mismatches that could tear apart any secondary in the league. Fant's 2019 first-round pedigree with Denver showed flashes of brilliance. 3 consecutive seasons over 560 receiving yards before his Seattle stint didn't quite pan out. But here's the beautiful part, Skull Nation. He wouldn't need to carry the load in Minnesota. In Kevin O'Connell's system, he'd be the perfect complementary piece, the vertical threat that could take our 12 personnel packages from good to absolutely unstoppable. Think about those tight end screens that would become objectively more explosive with Fant's speed. Picture JJ McCarthy having 3 elite tight end options, with Hawkinson as the reliable target, Fant as the deep threat, and our 3rd option creating the kind of depth that championship teams are built on. The money makes sense too. Seattle just saved $9 million by releasing him, which means he might be willing to take a team-friendly deal to join a contender and reunite with his college teammate. But wait until you hear about the defensive move that could guarantee our playoff dreams. The pressure on JJ. McCarthy is real, Skull Nation! After missing his entire rookie season with that torn meniscus, every single snap he takes will be under the microscope. But what if I told you there's a trade possibility that could take so much pressure off our young signal caller that playoff success becomes almost inevitable? Greg Newsome II from the Cleveland Browns. This isn't just wishful thinking. This is a legitimate possibility that could transform our secondary overnight. The former Northwestern standout in 2021 first-round pick is entering his contract year, making $13,377 million on his 5th-year option, and Cleveland might be willing to deal. Here's the proposed package that could make Skull Nation dreams come true. A 2026 3rd-round compensatory pick, a 2026 7th-round compensatory pick, and a 2027 2nd-round pick. Yes, it might seem steep, but when you're trying to maximize JJ, McCarthy's rookie contract window, this is the time to go all in. Picture this scenario. Brian Flores gets his hands on Greg Newsome II in our secondary. We all know Flores might be overqualified as a defensive coordinator, If not for his past issues, he'd probably still be a head coach somewhere. But that's our game. Skull Nation. His defensive genius combined with Newsome's elite coverage skills could create a secondary that makes opposing quarterbacks see purple nightmares. The beautiful part? Newsome is entering a contract year, which means he'll be playing for his next big payday. Players in contract years under Brian Flores' system have historically elevated their games to career-high levels. We could be getting Greg Newsome 2's absolute best football right when we need it most. And let's talk about Kevin O'Connell's reputation. Everyone in the NFL wants to play for this man. When you combine O'Connell's offensive brilliance with Flores' defensive intensity and you add a motivated Greg Newsome to the mix, you're looking at a recipe for championship level football. The math is simple. Strengthen the defense, take pressure off J.J. McCarthy, give him more opportunities with shorter fields, and watch our young quarterback flourish instead of struggle. It's been nearly 50 years since our last Super Bowl, SKL Nation, and this might be the defensive piece that finally gets us over the hump, but the third story might be the most surprising of all. Plot twist, SKL Nation. Remember Jiren Hall, our 2023 fifth round pick, who we surprisingly released last preseason to make room for Brett Rypien? Well, the Seattle Seahawks just cut him loose, and suddenly our former quarterback is back on the market. Jiren Hall started his Vikings journey as a long shot bet, a potential backup with just enough arm talent to maybe, possibly, eventually compete for a starting role. His 2023 rookie season was a wild ride of hope and heartbreak, stepping in when Kirk Cousins went down with that Achilles injury, only to suffer that brutal concussion against Atlanta while diving for a touchdown. Then came that primetime disaster against Green Bay that every Skull Nation member wants to forget, where he looked overwhelmed before Nick Mullins had to come back in. His Viking stats tell the story. 13 of 20 passes for 168 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, plus 14 rushing yards. Not exactly Hall of Fame numbers, but hey, he was thrown into impossible situations. After we released him, Hall signed with Seattle's practice squad, hoping for another shot. But the Seahawks quarterback room got crowded fast. They traded for Sam Darnold, signed Drew Lock, and drafted Jalen Milroe, pushing Hall all the way down to QB4. At 27 years old, he found himself right back where he started, looking for an opportunity. Here's where it gets interesting, Skull Nation. After we originally cut Hall, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, Kevin O'Connell actually expressed interest in bringing him back to our practice squad. He ultimately decided against it, but now that he's available again, could there be a reunion in the works? Our quarterback room is pretty full with JJ. McCarthy as QB1, Sam Howell as a backup, Brett Rypien as QB3, and undrafted free agent Max Brosmer making the roster. But practice squad spots exist for a reason, and Hall knows our system better than any available quarterback on the market. The connection to Kevin O'Connell remains strong, and sometimes familiarity breeds opportunity. Hall might not be the answer to our championship dreams, but as organizational depth and someone who understands our offensive philosophy, he could provide valuable insurance in a league where quarterback injuries happen every single week. SKL Nation, there you have it. 3 massive developments that could reshape our entire 2025 season. Noah Fant potentially reuniting with TJ Hawkinson to create an unstoppable tight end trio. Greg Newsome possibly coming over from Cleveland to give JJ McCarthy the defensive support he needs to succeed. And Jiren Hall being available for a potential homecoming that nobody saw coming. Smash that like button if these possibilities have you excited for Vikings football. Drop a comment below telling me which of these 3 moves you think would have the biggest impact on our championship chances. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ring that notification bell because Skull Nation deserves to be first to know about every purple and gold. Our development. The chess pieces are moving, the front office is active, and our championship window is wide open. These aren't just random roster moves. These are calculated steps toward finally bringing that Lombardi trophy home to Minneapolis. After decades of heartbreak and near misses, could 2025 finally be our year? What do you think, Skull Nation? Are these the moves that finally get us over the hump?